At the Riverside Project, we have a really unique perspective in our city. We kind of get to zoom out at this kind of 30,000-foot level and see all of these really hardworking organizations and lawyers and judges and foster parents and churches who are all saying, sign me up, we will go to the side of the river and we will help do our part. On any given day, thousands of Houston's children are in foster care, and so many more are at risk of going into the foster care system because of abuse, neglect, or family instability. On behalf of these kids and their families, the Riverside Project brings together all of these organizations and passionate people working together as one to see kids heal and families thrive.
Children, when they come into the system, they have experienced various levels of abuse, and there's a consequence to all of that.
I've been doing this work for 10 years. I've represented literally hundreds of kids, and this was the worst affidavit I had ever read. The facts of the case were heartbreaking and just gut-wrenching.
In my long time of working homicides, this one's up there.
My hope and prayer, and I'm sure that the community shares, is that these kids find the love, support, and care that they deserve and need.
And so my first job as an ad litem is to go visit these kids where they're placed, and these kids were placed in a shelter. And my first thought is like, we removed them from this awful, awful, terrible situation. We put them in a shelter, and how dare we as a community put these kids in that place?
I got a text from Tara saying, you probably have heard of the story, and I had heard of the story. She said, they're coming up on their 90-day stint in the shelter, and I don't have a placement for them.
And when I visited them, my heart broke even more. Just their craving for love and their craving for affection and how much they deserved that stability of a family.
I knew of one foster home that was open. They're great friends of ours. They had been foster and then adopted parents and had recently opened their home again. And so I reached out to Mackenzie. I think I let you guys know about the story and just said, hey, no pressure. I know that this is a tough situation.
We had a lot of conversation around what saying yes looks like.
And there were quite a few things about their story and their situation that was like
Really scary.
As my husband and I debriefed again later, we were both like, kind of, what are you thinking? And both of us being like, I don't think we can do it. And then both of us having an awareness that we hadn't actually prayed about that. We had just decided that it wasn't something that we should do.
So you start immediately thinking, what are the behaviors of the children? How is that going to impact the family? There's risks associated with it.
We had 3 older kids that were adopted from foster care, and so we were being kind of choosy about who would come into our home in order to protect them.
they had some profound things to express. One of them being, you did this for us, so why would we not be willing to do it for somebody else?
We want children in the least restrictive environment. And so what that looks like is a family home that's full of love.
We began to have a deep love for these kids, and we hadn't met them yet.
Before meeting them.
As an agency, our job is to find that placement. We really realized in getting to know the family that they'd already dealt with some tough stuff and getting their children to a really, really healthy place.
We did some pre-placement visits. We all had interviews with the Grays. They had visits with the children to make sure it was a good fit.
So we felt like with their passion, with the community support, that we could then take whatever risks, and we felt really comfortable and confident that we could move forward.
And so we filed a motion for placement with the court and really legally was able to move the kids to the home.
We were all in. You can have all the love in the world, and that's wonderful. You have to have that. But that really only goes so far. You're going to hit a lot of walls. You need support. You need people around you.
So Amber said earlier that all she did was just let somebody know about the need, but she made another call to us and let us know the parents where these kids go are going to need another level of support to ensure that the kids have what they need to heal.
What was really incredibly helpful with Chosen was meeting with them in the midst of it, not just having the training up front and reading all of the books, but being able to say like, hey, this is what we're dealing with like this week, and then being able to speak into the actual situation, pulling out those tools those TBRI tools that Karen Purvis told you about, and trying to actually instill those in the moment when you're at your height just like they are. It feels impossible. And so you need people that are already doing work on your behalf and supporting you, who understand what you're feeling in the midst of that.
If we can give the families what they need, just our little portion to help them keep going so that the boys are now thriving, it's a huge win.
They are so secure, and we have heard that from multiple outside sources. They wouldn't be as healthy as they are now if we weren't as healthy as we are, which is because of the support that we've had.
To have people to pray for you and with you has been really, really important.
Because we are not strong enough on our own. We're not. Each of these people have done what they can and taken on some element of risk, whether it's to their family or to their job or to their agency, saying, we want to be a part of the solution. And we know that there's risk involved, but we're willing to set that aside and say, let's come together and let's figure this out. There is a solution out there.
Collaboration, it sounds nice in principle, but to execute that, it can be a challenge. It takes multiple individuals, churches, nonprofits, like passionate people saying, hey, we're committed to making this work. At Riverside Project, we had a church leader training, and that's where I met Miss Jackie. And she had just mentioned, hey, our role along the river is to care for biological families to prevent their kids from going into the system in the first place. And then that very next day, this case came in from Miss West. Miss West at the time was a 19-year-old who had just recently aged out of foster care. She had a 7-month-old and had just recently moved into an apartment where she had nothing but an air mattress.
When Chandler called me, I just knew that it was divine from God that he wanted us to help Miss West. Yes, she is 19. Yes, she has aged out of a system. Yes, she has a little one that she's got to figure this out, but she's not forgotten and she is not forsaken.
I got an email. I said, hey, we have this house full of furniture. Anything that we can donate and provide for a family in need, please, can you find somewhere? And we need it out by this week. I reached out to Chandler and he said, actually, I have somebody that needs a house full of furniture. And so let me see what I can do. Let me make the connection.
The pastor, 2 of the deacons, and myself went to the house, moved all the furniture. And it was such a blessing to her because the whole house was full. She just couldn't understand how someone would do that much.
Using the analogy of the river, it's many different churches along the river. It doesn't have to always be so complicated of, hey, the church has to do these things in this exact order in this program.
I don't have to have all the pieces to all the tasks or helping a family.
Your role in this story and Northside's role in this story was literally forwarding an email.
Yes, it
which
really was.
Wasn't that complicated, but made such a huge impact.
It's really about the relationships that we're able to form to be the hands and feet of Jesus in the community, showing up in the form of a mattress or a sofa or groceries.
we recognize, hey, many of these vulnerable kids and families, they're in the water for a variety of reasons, but most of the time it's some kind of hurt in a relationship. On the flip side of that, we recognize that healing comes from a relationship. And so it's so important for individuals and community partners and churches to not just come in with furniture and fill an apartment and then leave, but that relational kind of wraparound support is so vital to helping vulnerable kids and families recognize that, hey, I'm not in this alone, that I actually have community support, and to not just be successful, but to heal.
It's a wonderful opportunity for Harvest and other churches to step in and come alongside, right? To say that you're not alone. You don't have to turn your baby into CPS. We can offer these supports. And I think those prevention services are really crucial.
So we can get in the river, come alongside of you, and love on you, and let you know, baby, let's get out this river.
That's it.
Forever.
One can chase 1,000, right? But can you imagine if we had multiple churches, all of the same heart and mind to serve? Imagine we don't have to go after and support one family. We could take on a region of foster care or something even greater, right? And again, the mission remains the same, to serve, to show and demonstrate the love of Christ. And that's all.
In a resourceful society, the fourth largest city in the richest country of the world, 300,000 children sleep on the floor every night. Just by coming together in proper sense, we can solve that problem.
This zip code 021 and 004 has the most foster care needs in our city.
We talk to churches all of the time about helping equip them to even care for their immediate community and those within their own churches.
We're, as a church, just trying to do our best to meet those needs and come alongside Riverside Project and care for these families, a lot of which that are in transition. It could be people who are coming off the street who were previously homeless, or they just got a new home and now they need furniture for the new home. So we first met Lakeitha. She was houseless with 5 kids. She only had a sofa in her home. 6 people can't sleep comfortably on a sofa.
The church actually reached out to us and said, hey, we have a family that we really want to care for. Do you have connections within the city to help us kind of meet this need?
Riverside Project was quick in their response to the need, and then also their recent partnership that they had with Houston Furniture Bank.
So Houston Furniture Bank is like a united way for furniture. So any of these agencies, when they're serving somebody in need of furniture, they can make an appointment and bring that family to the furniture bank or select for them whatever we have and whatever they need. So this is where we give furniture away from. Last year, we served about 1,300 families and gave away 17,000 pieces of furniture.
We talk about this idea of the river and families being in the water and wanting to get them out on a stable and dry ground. What you guys are doing is just really incredible because it's allowing families to get placement of their kids back, or it's allowing a foster family or a kinship family, a grandmother who just took on 5 kids, to be able to provide for their kids in a way that is stabilizing for the entire family. And you're doing it through furniture.
To go to Houston Furniture Bank with that family to pick out furniture for their rooms, just see the joy on those babies' faces. That just brought my heart tremendous joy. Now she has a place to rest with her children. In our neighborhood, there's a lot of broken families, and so to see a mother always fighting for her children and making sure that they have everything that they need. And she's a woman who not only works hard to provide for her kids, but she wants to serve. To have met her when she was previously houseless, and to now, be in her own place with her own furniture, with her children, to play a very small part in that. Is a gift.
All of us have a small piece, and this one thread that I have is not powerful enough to lift up a community or even to help one family, But whenever my thread meets what you're doing here in this church over here in this nonprofit, we're creating this web of safety for vulnerable kids and families.
Right.
And it only works if everybody like believes in it and contributes and all of that.
And that's the beauty of this story, is that you have a church and you have a nonprofit and you have community partners coming together, not just to meet needs, but to meet families relationally and get them out of the water.
I think sometimes we think when Jesus says care for the poor, the orphan and the widow, that their suggestions were really their commands from God for us to care for the vulnerable around us.
This is like a vicious cycle of poverty that we are in. So this oneness is going to break that cycle.
We don't have to do it alone.
It's going to take all of us.
I actually used to be really ashamed of my story. It wasn't normal. Everybody has to have a support group, a support system. I kind of just had to realize that you can't change the past. I was about 16 or 17. I was staying with my biological mom. We were staying in Family Promise. Family Promise is a hard program for the parents. We're a really high accountability program. And eventually we had got terminated from the program because my mom wasn't following instructions and those things. It was the hardest thing that the previous director and I ever had to do was dismissing this family, because the only thing we could think about was Ariel. Where's Ariel gonna go? Anybody that's dismissed from our program can still come back and get support from us. But Ariel was 16 years old and was working 30 hours a week and asking if we could help Uber her to and from her overnight accommodations. We had already went through a series of homelessness, but at that point I was facing homelessness by myself. I've always tried to finish school. That was the main goal, was to just make it to school, to make good grades. I was Ubering back and forth to try to make it to school. I was living out of a duffel bag. Just seeing a 16-year-old with that kind of like grit and tenacity is something that you don't see very often. My biggest source of motivation was my little brother. I have to make a better way for him, because I wouldn't want anybody to go through what I went through, and especially not alone. I ended up telling Tiffany what I was going through, and she was like, that's not normal. Jessica and I were just like, nope, that's not happening. I don't know what we're gonna do yet, but that's not okay, you're not leaving. The day that I had asked for help and I was receiving help, Tiffany had made some phone calls to Pam and Russell.
We've been foster parents for over 20 years. We just wanted to be available for her, but we just wanted her to be a teenager. And all she needed was a roof over her head and a drive back and forth to work and to go to school. She wanted to stay in the same school.
There was just lots of hurdles to overcome being a 16-year-old and being on your own without a legal guardian. And the only way to overcome that was to prove that she was capable of taking care of herself and get to the emancipation part. I got a call from Amber. I'd been a supporter of the Riverside Project. Essentially, we joked since like day half. And she said, hey, I have this kid and she's incredible. She works hard. She's working 30 hours a week. She's making A's. She's doing it all. And she has some real concerns. And she didn't just have an absent parent. She had a hostile parent. Amber said, I don't know what the legal solution is, but is this something you can look into? And so with the help of Houston Volunteer Lawyers and my firm, we were able to sit down with Ariel. And man, the first time I met with her, I was so impressed. It's so clear how much resilience she has. We were able to get her IDs. We were able to get her an agreement signed by her dad that gave Pam and Russell like a power of a parent. That really just made it feel like this is the start of a new life. You know, I got a fresh, clean slate. But she still didn't have the support she needed. She was going to go to school, and she was going to have somebody say, well, where's your parent to sign off on this? Pam and Russell lived right around the corner from my home anyway, so Pam and Russell would get her to school, and then sometimes I would take her home. I talked to my husband, Matthew. It would be okay if Ariel just lived with us for a little while. She's getting ready to go to school, and it'll just be for a few months, and we can make room. And so I jokingly a few times throughout the summer was like, I'd adopt you, you know?
And she'd be like, haha, so funny. And I was like, no, really, I really would adopt you. And Ariel just looks at me and my husband and she goes, hi, Mom. Hi, Dad.
It just happened. It just happened. To get to step in and provide that legal advice and be there as your advocate. It was one of the best days of my career, getting to be there to watch it become official, what was already in everyone's hearts, and getting to be a part of it.
How do you feel like your life looks different now than it would have?
My struggle has made me just like extra grateful. Everything that I thought that I wouldn't get over, God helped me just like like I overachieved. I'm an overachiever. I'm an overachiever. I did it. I did more than just it. Like, I'm doing great. Like, I'm on an amazing path. My struggle just makes it more unbelievable to everybody else. None of that held me down. None of that stopped me. And I'm off to bigger and better things for myself, for my siblings, for everybody. I'm proud to say that these people are my family. You're my family. They're my family. I love everybody that helped me because this is where I wanted to be. Yeah. This is where I wanted to be, and now this is where I am.
At the Riverside Project, we often remind our community that things that matter are hard, but we don't have to do them alone. When we step into the river to support a kid or a family, there's always risk and uncertainty, but there's also joy and beauty. And the best part is that we get to do this together.
It's a group of people recognizing, hey, there's a problem in our city, and we're not going to continue to watch families be in the water.
The needs that persist in our community aren't going anywhere, and it's going to take a concerted and group effort.
And the reality of that is it takes, I think, a humility as nonprofits and churches and community partners and individuals to say, hey, I can't do this on my own. And we actually need each other.
If we can get one person off the street,
That one person is probably tied to other people. And so if they get well, that impacts the other people that they're tied to.
Something can look really tough on paper, but it does not mean that it's insurmountable. We need to be willing to take some of those risks and recognize that we really can get through anything.
This is so little of what really can be done. That awareness really keeps me motivated. I feel like this 32 years, nothing is just the beginning. That's where the passion comes from.
I think all of these stories we've seen time and time again that there's a need, and I believe there's always a solution to that in our city. It's a really humbling place to be, to just sort of bring what we have and bring a connection and put some people together and then get out of the way and see the Lord do this miraculous work. It's really beautiful.